Hi everybody, I'm Jeffrey Driscoll and I'm in communications with the City of Edmonton. What we're going to do today is we're going to hear from our first speaker. This is Nicole Poirier, who's the Director of Civic Events and Festivals. Then we're going to go to questions. We're going to go old school. I haven't done a non-hybrid news conference in years, so we're going to go old school after this. And what we'll do is we'll just go to questions. I'll take questions from people who have had hands up. Try to do one question each just so we can get through with one follow-up each. And then we'll see what's left after that. If there's more time after that, we'll go there. So yeah, we'll do that and do the questions. But other than that, I think we're ready to go. So I'm going to hand it over to Nicole. Please go ahead.
Good afternoon. I'm Nicole Poirier, Director of Civic Events and Festivals for the City of Edmonton. To begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered today on the traditional land of Treaty 6 territory and the traditional Métis homeland of Region 4. We acknowledge the diverse Indigenous peoples whose ancestors' footsteps have marked this territory for centuries. From First Nations, Métis, Inuit, and now settlers from around the world. Thank you for joining us today as we get ready to welcome Pope Francis to our city. This visit is an important step as the Catholic Church continues its healing journey with residential school survivors and their families. The visit is also important to the City of Edmonton as we continue our healing journey with Indigenous peoples and communities. The City is working closely with our partners to support a safe and successful visit in Edmonton and area. I'd like to provide Edmontonians with information so they can plan ahead. Getting around during this visit will take extra time and patience. The largest event will be the Papal Mass at Commonwealth Stadium on Tuesday. We are expecting approximately 63,000 people to attend the Mass at Commonwealth and another 8,000 people at Clark Stadium to view the Mass on large screens. For those with tickets to the Mass, we would like to remind you to allow extra time to get into the stadiums as there will be screening of all guests upon arrival. You are advised to arrive early, plan your route to get to the stadium ahead of time, and use public transit to get there, as there is no parking in and around Commonwealth Stadium. ETS will provide park and ride services to the Mass from a variety of park and ride locations across the city. Those attending the Papal Mass can use their ticket as fare to ride regular transit buses, LRT, and/or the park and ride services from 7 a.m. until 2:30 p.m. that day. Buses from each park and ride location will run every 5 minutes. The gates to Commonwealth and Clark Stadium will open at 7:30 a.m. By beginning the park and ride service half an hour prior to the gates opening at Commonwealth, we hope to minimize lineups for those attending the Mass. And as transit fares are included with your Papal Mass tickets, we also hope to expedite the lineups at LRT stations. For those who are seated on the floor in Commonwealth and standing on the field in Clark Stadium, you must arrive in your seats by 8:30 a.m. Everyone else attending should arrive early to ensure a smooth entry into the stadiums. The gates are open at 7:30 a.m. and pre-programming begins at 8:15 a.m. Mobile tickets are required to enter the stadiums, so we're asking attendees to please ensure tickets are properly loaded in your Ticketmaster app or saved on your mobile device to ensure a quick entry. Please note that there are restrictions on what can be brought into Commonwealth and Clark Stadium. Guests are allowed to bring a clear bag that measures 12 inches by 12 inches by 6 inches, and a non-clear clutch bag that measures 4.5 inches by 6.5 inches. Light snacks and plastic water bottles up to 750 milliliters are also allowed. However, no glass or metal containers will be permitted. Concessions at the stadium will not be open, but water will be available. Papal keepsakes will be on sale both inside and outside of Commonwealth Stadium. The event happens rain or shine, so I encourage everyone to dress for the weather, as this is an open air venue. More information on what is permitted and not permitted in Commonwealth and Clark stadiums is available on our website at edmonton.ca/Papal Visit. Commonwealth Community Recreation Centre will close to the public at 1 p.m. on Monday, July 25th, and reopen the following afternoon. We thank our patrons for their patience and cooperation during this temporary closure. A number of road closures, traffic detours, parking restrictions, and transit adjustments will be in effect during the Papal Visit. Some of these road closures will start on Saturday morning, with additional closures happening in the days and hours leading up to the Papal Mass on Tuesday. Due to road closures and increased traffic around Commonwealth Stadium, we also anticipate there may be system-wide ETS delays for buses on the morning of July 26th. Please plan extra time for your commute. Parking lots at Commonwealth Stadium and the Commonwealth Community Recreation Centre will be closed on Monday, July 25th, and will reopen the following afternoon. Residential parking restrictions will be in effect in the neighborhoods around Commonwealth Stadium on July 26th. There will also be road closures and parking restrictions on Monday, July 25th, in the neighborhood around Sacred Heart Church of the First Peoples, which is located at 108th Avenue and 96th Street. Vehicles will be able to exit the area, but won't be able to be allowed back in until 6:30 p.m. that day. And no on-street parking will be permitted. There are many opportunities in Edmonton for residents and visitors to enjoy as part of their journey towards healing and understanding. This includes the Indigenous Peoples Experience at Fort Edmonton Park. On July 25th and 26th, ETS will be providing free shuttle service to the Indigenous Peoples Experience at Fort Edmonton Park. I encourage you to visit the city's website to learn about more and other events and Indigenous learning opportunities. Go to edmonton.ca/Papal Visit. During this busy time, we ask that people plan ahead and leave additional time to get to where you are going. There will be a large number of visitors in Edmonton during the Pope's visit, some of whom will be unfamiliar with our streets and our transit system. So please continue to be patient and courteous as you travel throughout the city on these days. I realize this is a lot of information, so I encourage you to go to our website at edmonton.ca/Papal Visit for these details and other useful information. To close, and before we move to questions, I would just like to reiterate how important this visit is as we continue our healing journey with Indigenous peoples, and remind everyone to plan ahead and arrive early to all the Papal Visit sites. I'd like to open the floor up now to questions, so I'll hand the reins back to Jeffrey.
So I think we downloaded a lot of information on you there. Well, we've got a couple of people who can answer your questions. Nicole's going to try to take I think you've got a list of them here, but I'll just go over them just in case. So, of course, we've got Nicole Poirier, Director of Civic Events and Festivals. We've got Steve Kwasny, Kwasny, with the Office of the Papal Visit. We've got Daniel Vrind, who's the Director of Planning and Scheduling with the Edmonton Transit Service. We've got Heather Suter, who, of course, is the Director of Commonwealth Stadium. And we've got Inspector Eric Johnson with the Edmonton Police Service. So what I'll do is I'll just open it up. Who's got questions? I want to try to get one from everybody in a follow-up. But please, could you say your name and your outlet, and And yeah, and ask away.
Carly Robinson, City News, and my question is for EPS. I wanted to know about, we know about the official road closures, but we also see security in other areas of the city, like the Archdiocese. Are there other areas that Edmontonians should be ready for increased police presence?
In answer to your question, yes, there are other areas, as well as there's going to be a motorcade that escorts His Holiness around the city. And with that, we're going to be having rolling closures of intersections and whatnot. But we just ask the public to remember the rules of the road. If a motorcade is coming up behind them, please pull off to the side of the road and ensure that they do not begin moving again until the last vehicle, the motorcade, goes by. So there is going to be rolling road closures, and there's also going to be other road closures throughout the city.
And the Archdiocese near that traffic circle in South Edmonton, what's the disruption potentially like there?
We don't foresee any issues there currently. It just depends on how many people show up out there if they choose to do so.
Please.
If I could hear from EPS and the city on this one,
Sure.
just a brief comment. I just want to get a sense of the scale of this. This is obviously, especially on Tuesday, will be a massive event. Have you ever really dealt with anything like this before? And just sort of walk us through how huge an undertaking it is.
Absolutely. It is by far the hugest event of my career. We do have major events, but nothing of this scale. To the point where, of course, the RCMP are assisting with the whole visit, and we're a partner agency with them. And we certainly couldn't do this without them, because it's just such a vast scale of resources that are needed to police the city and ensure public safety.
Let's get Nicole back up.
Thanks for the question. This is an important visit in our city. This is a once-in-a-generation event that is happening in our city. And it's really important to us as a city that we get this right, or as right as possible. So I would suggest that this is one of those larger events, one of the largest events that we will see in this generation.
You want to follow up on that?
I know, that's great.
Question.
Hi, so Joe with the CTV. I have a question for Steve from the Papal office.
Sure.
Hi there. I just have a question about taxpayers sharing the burden of this, and just a comment from you on why Albertans or Canadians should be footing the bill for the visit here.
Yeah, so maybe I'll just clarify part of that. A significant amount of the Papal Visit costs are funded through donations. We're on track through both small and large donors to cover the actual costs of the visit. Where there's in-kind support from orders of government like the City of Edmonton or the province, is really, as Nicole spoke to, this is call to action number 58 of the 94 Truth and Reconciliation calls to action. There's all three orders of government feel this is really an important thing to get right. It's a national event, and so there's been some definite stepping up from our government partners and from our Indigenous partners as well. So as to why that stepping up is happening, I think I'd come back to this is outlined as call to action 58, and we're trying to do everything we can to make sure that this goes as well as possible.
Donations, how much donations, and who will that money go to?
So in terms of the donations, right now there's a collection happening to cover the costs of the Papal Visit, making sure that the providers of suppliers of AV venues, that sort of stuff, have their costs covered, and so that's where the fundraising from the Office of the Papal Visit's going. Yeah, I guess, does that answer your question? Or is there a second part to that?
How much?
Oh, how much? Sorry. We're on track to achieve our target, which is right about $15 to $18 million. 15, 1-5.
What will the Pope be? What will his transportation be? Will he be riding in?
Are you asking if the Popemobile's coming?
Yeah. Well.
So as EPS spoke to, the motorcade will be transporting the Pope between venues and the like. And if the short answer to your question is the Popemobile coming, yeah, the Popemobile is going to be here. And so we're all pretty excited to see it in person.
And then I have a question either for transit or police, just basically, can we talk about how chaotic the roads will be across Edmonton, especially on that Tuesday, but throughout the next few days?
Why don't we start with transit? We'll get Danny up here. Can I grab your name and your
Sure, yeah. Gabriella Pansbell-Trandy with CBC.
Thank
And yeah,
you.
just wondering how chaotic is it going to be?
Yeah, we asked that people plan ahead a little bit. We have some real-time tracking tools that people will be able to plan their trip, day of if they're not going to the event. For the event, ask that people use transit to get there. That'll be the smoothest way, both for themselves and impacting others, to get to Commonwealth that day. There will be some, where the motorcade passes through, or where there are closures, we will expect to see some delays and ask people, to be patient with those and to leave early.
I have you right there, I guess, for commuters who are going to work in the morning or something like that, how much extra time do you suggest that they give themselves?
That's going to depend a little bit on where they're coming, and I would really advise that people use the real-time trip planning tools, whether that's the Transit app or Google, will be the best live source of information on how to get to your individual destination.
Inspector Johnson.
And I agree that it's going to be a lot of people on the road, especially on the Monday, Tuesdays. So yeah, I just ask that people are patient when the motorcades go by. Just keep a distance and make sure that just obey all the rules of the road. But we're expecting a lot more traffic, and we have the resources in place to deal with that.
And when you say resources, what do you mean by that?
Extra police officers on duty.
And can I just follow up on that, I guess? Are there certain hot spots in the city that people should be avoiding? I mean, we already have kind of the map of certain spots that are going to be closed, but any hot spots you want to warn people about?
Not so much. The motorcade is a game time decision as far as what route they're going to be taking, so we can't exactly say what roads are going to be really busy that day.
Let's go to Lauren.
Since you're here as well, I want to ask about the cost. How much extra is this going to cost the city to cover the security for the Pope, as well as for transit? Because I guess we're kind of, the city's absorbing some of the cost because the tickets are free for all the visitors. So I wonder if you can start with that. And also if you know, how many more extra people will be out, quantify how much extra effort this is.
It's a lot of extra effort. Planning's been going on for about 3 months with the EPS and between the RCMP and us. As far as costing goes, there is a costing framework through Public Safety Canada that we will be submitting all our costs through for compensation and reimbursement.
I'm going to ask Nicole to come up for the city.
Should I just clarify, sorry? You mean that the city of Edmonton won't be paying for the police, it'll be covered by the federal government? Is that what that means?
Vast majority, but with Commonwealth, there has been a donation up to $1 million in kind, and that will be partly covered through with our security costs there as well.
Yeah, so based on the importance of this visit to the City of Edmonton, City Council has endorsed up to $1 million be provided of city services value in kind. And so that means Commonwealth Stadium is being provided at the city's cost. That includes policing as it relates to public safety. It doesn't include policing as it relates to papal security. It includes our traffic, so the park and ride being free, the transit being free on that day, and it also includes a number of community social supports and activations that we're putting in place, such as the Indigenous Peoples Experience is free for people on Monday and Tuesday. We've provided we will have some social workers available in and around the downtown area, as well as at the Indigenous Peoples Experience to provide that emotional support to those who require it. So all told, the city's contribution of value in kind is up to $1 million.
Does that include extra cleanup? I've seen parks people cleaning up Chinatown, sweeping areas that we normally don't see, kind of tidying. Looks like some of the areas maybe are unsightly in the city that you don't want to have the city's reputation about that. How much is that included in that, and why is that being done?
Yeah, so a number of those activities would happen anyway in and around Chinatown. We know some of the pieces that have happened there. Some of the parks cleanup, et cetera, is definitely something we consider whenever there would be any kind of significant major event in our city. So because it's a major event, we do look to ensure that our spaces are looking as well as they can, but it's not being done specifically with budget from that $1 million value in kind. It's usual work that could require or could happen at any time.
So that there is extra apart from the $1 million in other services in kind, like speeding up, like cleaning parks more than you normally would?
Not more than we normally would, perhaps prioritizing them in a different way so that they come to the top of the list for their normal cleaning, the garbage, any graffiti cleanup that we would require, etc., is just normal practice.
I'm going to go back here first.
Thanks for taking my question. Julien Lafarès, Radio Canada. I just wanted to know what happens if there's too many people at Commonwealth Stadium. Is there like an overflow location that's being set up by the city?
Yeah, so there's not an overflow spot per se. Everyone is requested to pick up tickets in advance. And we are working very closely with the Office of the Papal Visit to ensure that elders, knowledge keepers, residential school survivors, and their families do gain access in the event that they have not received a ticket in advance.
Do you have a follow-up there?
Yeah, and I'm sorry if it was already asked, but what's the total number of people expected in Edmonton during the Pope's visit?
So we really don't have a good sense of what that total number is. We know that at Commonwealth Stadium, we're expecting upwards of 63,000 people in the stadium and an additional 8,000 in Clark Stadium. And so with that alone, it tells us that we're expecting more people to be in our city. People are coming from all across Canada. This is a national event, from northern Alberta to BC, Manitoba, Saskatchewan. So we anticipate there will be large numbers, but we don't have a really good sense at this point of what exactly that is.
Charlie?
Yeah, just on the topic of crowd control, because we have been hearing about people who book tickets to Edmonton without tickets to get in. We heard that there are spaces for Indigenous participants, but what about those who are just trying to get a glimpse, gonna maybe try and crowd the area? What's the plan? Maybe EPS can talk about this as well. What's the plan for that?
Yeah. So there are definitely plans in place, and we're working very closely with our EPS colleagues. Crowd management is a normal activity when we have major events in Edmonton, and we work very closely with all our civic services, from traffic, transit, and EPS, to ensure the safety of the public. So I'll let Inspector Johnson.
Do you want to follow up on that?
Yeah, we definitely have staffing in place to deal with any sort of crowd issues. And of course, that's going to be through education, direction, just ensuring that everything runs smoothly. So yeah, we have the resources in place to deal with large crowds.
And just following up on that topic, specifically education, what do you want people to know if they are going to be the person who goes without a ticket to try and get a glimpse? As well, what's happening to minimize disruptions to residents around Sacred Heart, which might be more city?
Yeah, I'll let Nicole field that question, but sorry, what was the first part of the question?
Addressing what do you want people to know?
Right.
Who might be trying to just go out and be part of this? The people who don't have tickets, what do you want them to know?
Yeah, just they should understand that they won't be able to access the venues, but they're free to come and try to catch a glimpse of the Pope as long as they're respective of the roadways and staying off them, and just stay to the sidewalks.
We'll go to Joe, and then we'll go to Gabrielle. Joe?
Can I just do a follow-up on that one, please? So just to be clear, each of the events will be live streamed. And so for people who don't have the opportunity to get into any of the venues, they are more than welcome to watch the events as they're unfolding live.
But Sacred Heart, the neighborhood there, minimizing disruption to those people.
Yeah, so it's about a two block radius around that neighborhood. So we have provided a community notification. We will be working with those neighborhood residents so that they're aware of when they can come and when they can go. We do know that as of Monday, when we've closed the roads, they can get out, but they may have to walk in until the roads reopen at 6:30 for them to be able to come back into their homes.
Thanks. I know you already said we don't know how many people we're expecting, but do we have a rough estimate that maybe a number that's been flying around in some meetings that how many people are being that you could see?
I really don't know. That would be something that the Office of the Papal Visit would need to tell us, and we haven't heard a specific estimate as it relates to that.
Gabrielle?
So my question is also for police, if you don't mind. Just logistically, I was wondering, you talked about extra resources, bringing in extra officers. How many extra officers are being deployed over the course of Saturday to Tuesday?
Unfortunately, that's kind of a security question that I can't respond to.
And I had a follow-up, and I've forgotten it now, so
Okay, no
I'll
problem.
come back to you.
Can you give a ballpark at all?
Oh, I've remembered my question, sorry. For anyone we were just talking about people coming in who might not necessarily have tickets, but would like to get a glimpse of the Pope, what's the best and safest way to do that as he's coming by?
Once again, we won't be releasing any motorcade routes or anything along those lines, so just due to security, I can't answer that question either. I'm sorry.
Do you want to address that at all? Where people can see the Pope? Yeah.
Yeah, or just in general, like how they should be behaving when he walks by and stuff like that. What's the kind of the do's and don'ts, I guess?
Well, I think first and foremost, per Nicole's comments, all of the events are going to be live streamed and broadcast online. So, just to ensure that we minimize disruptions, I would encourage anybody that doesn't have a ticket to do it that way. The Pope's route, as the EPS talked about, is a game time decision. So it's not like we can give people a list of corners to stand on and be able to see them. I would hate to disappoint anybody that way. But I think if you really want to feel like you're part of it and you don't have a ticket, the live stream is the #1 way to do that.
I think we're going to start to wind down here. We're on our way to it.
Question for Nicole, yeah. Do we have an idea about the money that the city is going to get in from like tourists coming here because of the Pope's visit? Revenue?
So first and foremost, this is about truth, reconciliation, and healing. We have not, at this point in time, done any kind of economic impact assessment as it relates to this visit. Do we anticipate that there may be some economic impact with visitors coming to our city, staying in hotels, eating in restaurants? Absolutely, there will be some, but I cannot tell you what that number is.
Can you talk about the significance, not just to Canada or Alberta, but to Edmonton of this visit?
Yeah, so this is a really important journey for Indigenous peoples, and the city is committed to truth, reconciliation, and healing as per action called Action 58 of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission that actually happened in our city. Indigenous folks have been asking for this apology on the land, and we as a city feel it's very important that we help facilitate those discussions and that community learning as it relates to that.
One last question, Jean-Emmanuel Fortier with Radio-Canada. Was there any thought made, and I hear from your remarks that it's not happening, but about extra spaces to watch the events? We were streaming Stanley Cup playoffs on Churchill Square. And why is it not being done here?
So it is being live streamed. I will start with that. But as you can see in our city, there are many other activities going on and taking place. K-Days is on. There's an Indigenous people's experience happening there. We have Taste of Edmonton. If you've been out on our square, it is full and is very, very busy. We understand as well that many parishes across the city have chosen that if they cannot get into Commonwealth Stadium and don't have tickets, that they will be considering smaller parish-type viewing activities. Our resources are busy. Our transit people are busy, our police are busy. This is a busy time in our city, and while this is really important, we believe there are other opportunities for people to participate and learn on their journeys of truth and reconciliation.
I think on that, we're probably going to end. Nicole, if there's one thing that you want to say to the people of Edmonton, what is it?
I would say to the people of Edmonton, plan ahead. Come early to any of the Papal Visit sites that you may be attending and ensure that you know where you're going and how you're going to get there. It's critical to the success of the event, and nobody wants to miss an opportunity to see the Pope wherever it is that he is going to be.
Okay, thanks. If you all have any further questions or clarifications, don't hesitate to ask me, anybody else. We want to make sure everybody gets this. There's a lot of stuff going on. But thanks very much.
Names and spelling?
Yes.
However,
If you could,